Welcome to another Teaching Tuesday with Wild Blessings. I'm Holly Drake, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're going to be really diving into being wild and well and some natural remedies. We're going to go over 5 truly powerful remedies that have been used for centuries, generations, thousands of years, and tried and true. So I want to add to your bag of tricks, and I want to make you feel empowered with all of that we're facing right now in our society. And what about you?
Well, we thought we'd come in at the beginning just to say hi to everybody. And you're
Well, is
doing
he
a
coming back later?
well, yeah, he'll come back later, but you're doing a very different episode today.
Yes,
So
this is different, but it's going to be all on the health laws and on how we can stay healthy, and then what to do. Some really powerful things we can do once we start feeling poorly. So
yes,
I'm
okay,
looking
all
forward
right.
to this, and I'll try to not overwhelm you. There's so much more we could talk about. And next week we will continue this with how to be an aromatic warrior. So we'll be talking about essential oils and how to use those for health next week. But right now we're going to delve into this. So
All right. Well, Max is feeling poorly about somebody else outside who is, who's somehow walking by or whatever.
it's
So
probably a squirrel.
he'll have to take a break for a few minutes before we come back. Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Yeah, Max has something to say. All right. So welcome, especially if you're new. I'm really excited that you're here. Let me know a little bit about yourself in the welcome post in Wild Blessings with Holly Drake Facebook group, and love to know you. Get involved. And the more you do, the more you will learn, because we learn by doing and eating. So right now I'm herbing around. I start every class with herbing around. This, y'all know what that is. This is barberry. It's considered a really highly invasive plant. There's thousands of them all over this mountain. And look, they are still vibrant even now in January. So I'm taking off some berries because this will be one of the kick-ass protocols that we'll talk about later. And y'all might not have barberry on your land. In fact, it's against the law in Maine to actually sell this stuff. But and to tell you the truth, I actually bought 3 of these plants when I first moved in here. I didn't know that they were all over the mountain, and now they're huge. Jason just cut them back, and you can see that the yellow inside of there is a very powerful constituent called berberine, which is an antibiotic. So it's very powerful stuff. And anyway, you can also just eat the berries, but we're going to make an oxymel, a wild oxymel, with it later. So let's get started with, also, if you have welcomed anyone new to this group, please be sure, or you've asked them to join, let them know what it is they're getting involved in, so that they're not just getting messages from me like, welcome, and they don't know who I am or what Wild Blessings is. And then the next thing we do is we always start with a tea, a wild tea. So I thought I would teach you how to make a wild electrolyte. So what I did is I'm using an antiviral tea, which is Lemonbalm, which is one of my absolute favorites. It's also super, super good for depression and so forth. So, but it's really powerful for colds and flu and for cold sores and you name it. Melissa officinalis is its botanical name. So I just have been steeping it for about 10 minutes, and then I just put it through this little sieve. And then Jason, I'm going to make you some. So what I'm doing now to make an electrolyte is I'm going to use a little bit of honey, and you want to get really good quality honey because a lot of what's out there is just sugar that's been diluted into the honey. So there's very little actual honey. So I put like a good teaspoon into the honey, and then I'm going to add a little bit of lemon for the electrolyte, and then I'm going to add some sea salt, and that adds the all the constituents you need to replenish nutrients and help your cells to absorb water. So this, why would you need an electrolyte? Why do people go buy Gatorade with so much sugar content in it that it actually causes even more damage to your immune system? Because we need to replenish, especially when we've had diarrhea or you've been sweating a lot through fever. you need to replenish those nutrients in your system and those minerals. And so this is a really tasty, fun way to do it. Come try it, Jace.
Well, where do people get lemon balm?
Oh, well, you don't have to use lemon balm. You can just make an electrolyte with just plain hot water and the honey and the salt and the vinegar or lemon. And I used lemon for him because he doesn't prefer vinegar. But I just decanted. This is a vinegar that I made myself with the apple peelings last a few months ago, and I've been stirring that. It's been in my brewing and fermenting. How's that taste?
Well, it tastes like Gatorade, but it doesn't have that sweetness to it. That it's too much sugar. They put so much sugar in there, but
Yeah.
to me, it's just like the same thing. Very
Okay.
much so.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, it's pleasing, isn't it?
Yeah, and you put in the honey, so it's got a little bit of a honey flavor to it also.
Yeah. So with mine, I'm going to go ahead and use the vinegar instead of the lemon because that's really a better way to make I think, to make an electrolyte. I'm going to add the honey and I'm going to pour the lemon balm tea. And like I said, you can just use regular hot water. We have a lot of demonstrations today. I can't wait to show you at the end of our class. I'm going to show you 5 kick-ass protocols for getting well once you're starting to feel a little off. And these are tried and true. So I'm excited about sharing those with you. And you'll see what all of this stuff is for as we go through class. Let me try. I forgot to put the salt in. Really important when you put the salt that you buy salt that is sea salt. Regular table salt is just sodium chloride. It's just sodium chloride, and it's very, very harsh. And then they'll put some iodine in it. But once you've even opened up the iodine or opened up the lid, you've lost 50% of your iodine. So it's really not a great way to get iodine. We'll talk about that in a different class. So you want to get Celtic sea salt, and I like Redmond sea salt, and I'll put that in the class notes. All right. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is that the best defense with your immune system is a good offense. And my favorite way of healing is prevention. And so the things we're going to be talking about today will prevent things going south, and they will also cure things when they are. So the most important thing I wanted to share with you is some laws that God has given us. So he's given us the moral law, which is the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. And all of those laws are given to us out of his loving heart to make sure that we don't screw up and that we don't hurt other people and hurt ourselves and dishonor him. So he's written that law within our hearts. So no matter who you are, those laws are in our hearts. And we know that those things are wrong, not just because he's a killjoy. He's not. He wants us to experience life. And so his laws are actually his love letters to us. And it is to our benefit to obey them. And then there are some physical laws, which I call the 8 health laws. And I learned about this from a phenomenal naturopath. Her name is Dr. Barbara O'Neill. And I'll be giving you links to her material below. She's fantastic. And I've learned so much from her. She's literally changed my life. And so she talks about how our health is our wealth. And God has given, like when we lose our health, nothing else really matters, So even if we have spiritual, robust health, God wants us to be physically healthy as well. And he's given us very simple and free ways to do that. We just need to know what they are. And so it's really one of my passions to share this with all of you and with everyone I've met about these 8 health laws. So we're going to talk about those. And I've got a really special guest that I'll be bringing on in just a minute after we talk about the first health law. So our Bible verse for this week is God gave herbs for the service of man. And that's Psalms 104, verse 14. These plants are for our healing and for our medicine. And many pharmaceuticals actually are made from plants, but they're free. And so you can't patent them. And so I often wonder, and especially in the kind of climate that we are in right now, where there's so much fear and so much anxiety concerning the pandemic that they don't recommend these very commonsensical things that are not so common sense anymore. So these are very simple. They don't cost hardly anything. Most of it's free. But it's up to us to really become wise and to know our frame and to know our bodies and to understand how God made them and how they work and to our advantage. And so we might be living longer, but it's almost like a lot of people, older people and even younger people, are just barely existing because their bodies are just not working the way God intended them to work. So if you follow these 8 health laws, it will just benefit you immensely. And it's so simple. Okay, so the moral laws were the 10 commandments and the 8 universal health laws. And if you look at the word health, the word heal is written in, it's just right there, heal right there. So these are our prevention, these 8 laws, and they're also our healers. And the first law, I do it in or Barbara taught this to me in a acronym. So it's new start. So get out a piece of paper and write down like a straight on down vertically, new start. So you've got NEWSTART. And N stands for nutrition. And we're going to listen in just a minute to Sean Croxton, who is a functional, how do you pronounce that, Jason?
Functional diagnostic nutritionist.
Functional diagnostic nutritionist. I don't know if he still is, but he was years ago, and he was my health coach. And so he was kind of like the beginning of me just discovering that eating Doritos and Oreo cookies and drinking Dr. Pepper and Coke wasn't necessarily the best way to feed my cells. So he was an absolute blessing in my life. I actually went out to California to take care of my mother-in-law at one point, I think in 2011. And I got to meet him in person, and we went foraging together at Lake Murray. And that was a serious highlight for me. He is such a great guy. This is many years ago, this video that he's put on YouTube. It's called How to Stay Out of the Doctor's Office for Good. And so the reason why I want you to watch this is because he's going to talk about nutrition. He coined the term JERF, which stands for, let me write that down. JERF stands for Just Eat Real Food. And so his big thing is just eat real food. Processed food is not real food. It's chemically laced, and it has all kinds of toxins in it and genetically modified foods. So be very careful that you're eating foods that have like when you look at the ingredients, that they just have 1 or 2 or 3 things, and they don't have all these chemicals that you can't even pronounce, because that can really damage your immune system. So let's
give an example of processed food you're describing.
Oh, fast foods, anything you buy in the grocery store that's in the middle aisles. So you just kind of want to go around the outside of the middle aisles. Like you don't want to buy boxed foods or frozen foods or foods that have been put in convenience foods, because it might be convenient, but it's actually filling your stomach, but it's not feeding your cells, and it's causing problems. And decades of that type of eating can cause serious dis-ease. So let's watch Sean now. And this is so powerful and so important. I hope you really get an idea of that this changes your life. So he's talking about what are our cells. We are made up of cells, trillions of cells, 100 trillion cells, and every one of those cells needs building blocks. And so he's going to talk about that, and then what happens when they don't get what they need. And then we'll talk about it after you watch this. So enjoy, and then we'll be back in a minute.
Yo, today I'm going to share a diagram with you that I share with all of my clients. I was actually doing this yesterday, and I was like, wow, I've never done this on YouTube before. It's a really good diagram that kind of help you to kind of see the big picture of what's going on with this whole nutrition, health, and wellness thing. And it's not going to be anything new to a lot of people, but it's a great way to help other people to understand why nutrients are so important to staying healthy and to staying disease free. And I've got my clipboard out, I've got my pen, and let's go at it. The first thing I do when I write out my diagram is I write down cells. Your body's made out of like 100 trillion cells. So when you look in the mirror, you're basically looking at a combination of all of these cells. They're like your building blocks that make you, you. But more specifically, what do they build? So on the next level here under cells, I want to write all those things down, or a few of those things. Muscles. Muscles are made out of cells. Your bones are made out of cells. Your blood is made out of cells. Organs are made out of cells. Glands are made out of cells. All right, all these important vital things here, these vital structures and fluids are made out of cells. And so what does this level, what do these things make? Well, these things, I can't say make, but they play a role in your systems. And so when I say systems, I'm talking about reproductive system, your circulatory system, your your respiratory system, and so on and so forth. And so the health of your systems is dependent upon the health of your muscles, bones, blood, organs, and glands. And this level here is influenced by the health of your cells. But I don't think that we take enough time to consider, what do our cells need? What builds our cells? What do they need to stay nourished? What type of building blocks do they need? And so if the cells are like if they're like brick houses, what are the bricks? And are we getting them the bricks, or are we trying to build brick houses with wood? Which it kind of seems like what we're doing. And so cells, they need water. They need the H2O. You can go several months without food, but you can only go 3-4 days without water. So water is absolutely critical. Next up, we need the macronutrients. We need protein, amino acids. We need fat, fatty acids. We need carbohydrates, glucose. We need all of these things for our cells as well. So I'm going to put protein, fat, and carbohydrates up there as well. All right. Next up, we've got vitamins. We all know about vitamins. Next up, we've got minerals and trace minerals. And then lastly, enzymes. And a lot of people don't know about enzymes. Enzymes, they drive the chemical reactions in your body. They're like the Energizer Bunny battery that makes everything go. All right. And so all of these things here, we need to get through our diet. And a lot of us aren't getting them. And the thing about it is that they act synergistically. So they all need each other to work properly in order to fuel the cells and to build the cells. And so let's just take this for instance. Enzymes. Let's think about our diet right now. Enzymes, our bodies can produce, but enzymes also come from food. And so you have lots of enzymes in meats. However, if you overcook your meat, if you cook the heck out of it and kill your meat, then you're also killing the enzymes. If your enzymes also come in fruits and vegetables. However, if your fruits and vegetables are coming from a non-organic source, or if they're coming from Argentina and it's spending a month in transport to get to your plate, then they're going to lose a lot of the enzymes as well. And so we're definitely, not getting the amount of enzymes that we really truly need. And then to take that further, we've got vitamins and minerals. And vitamins and minerals are considered to be cofactors. And so what they do is they are needed to activate the enzymes to get them to do their job. All right. And so like I say, everything is synergistic. If you're not getting enough fat in your diet, then you're going to be missing out on your fat-soluble vitamins. If you're not eating organic produce, organic fruits and vegetables, then you're not maximizing your vitamins and minerals, because the vitamins and minerals aren't in the soil. And if they're not in the soil, then they're definitely not in the fruit or the vegetables. And then when you eat them, they definitely don't get to you. And so we've got this cycle going on. Furthermore, if you're trying to build your body up with protein and amino acids, which are another very important building block of our bodies, and you're dehydrated, well, the dehydration is going to put you into a catabolic state. When you in a catabolic state is like a body breakdown. It means breaking down of the body. But we want to be in an anabolic state. So to be anabolic, we need to be hydrated. And so, as I say, they work synergistically. And when they work properly and you get all of these things, your cells are going to be functioning the way they should be. However, our diets aren't getting these things into our bodies, and so our cells are suffering. If your cells are suffering, then you're going to suffer at this level, because the cells are the building blocks of this level. If you're having trouble on that level, then you're going to get symptoms. All right. And these don't happen overnight. These are things that happen over decades of being deficient in some of these areas. And so once your systems get bad, what happens on the systemic level? You get something, you get labeled as something. You go into the doctor with your symptoms, he says you have X, Y, or Z. You have a disease, you have a disorder, you have some type of syndrome. All right, so we've got, poorly working cells. We're starting to get symptoms, and then we get disease. And what happens when the diseases get real bad? We get really, really dead. All right, and you don't have to be in a box these days or an urn these days to be dead. As I've said before, I meet with dead people all the time with no vitality at all. But see, check this out though. When you go to the doctor, they treat your symptoms. They don't look up here. They don't say, okay, well, how's your diet? How's your enzyme intake? How's your vitamins and minerals? Are you eating right for your metabolic type? Are you staying hydrated? They skip all of this and they say, okay, you don't need these. You need a chemical. You need a drug. But there are no drugs up here. Your cells don't need drugs. And so your symptoms, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, aren't chemical deficiencies. They're not drug and pharmaceutical deficiencies. There's something going on up here that you've been missing out on for a good while. And so you always want to address the root of the problem. So you want to look at your diet and look at it and say, is this all processed? Because if it's all processed, then I'm not getting my vitamins and my minerals. Look at your meats and say, hey, is this stuff organic? Is it grass-fed? If not, then I'm not getting the building blocks for myself. Am I drinking enough water? If you're drinking just coffee and diuretics, things that make you go pee a lot, like soda, then you're dehydrated, and so you're not fueling the cells, and so you're just going to have this domino effect that eventually is going to get down to the systemic level, and you're going to get disease, and then you're going to get dead, and that's no fun at all. Because it's definitely no fun being dead. I mean, I've never been dead, but I'm sure it's not fun. Right? And so let's get back to the roots. Let's get back to whole foods, the store itself, but just whole foods in general, like things that were here 5,000 years ago, not the processed stuff. And so anyway, that probably took longer than it should have, but I just wanted to get that out there to help people to understand the big picture of all this. We have to get the basic building blocks into our body through our diets. I'm out of here. You guys have a great week.
So if you get nothing else from that presentation by Sean, remember that doctors treat symptoms, they don't treat the root cause. And so we have to be our own doctors, and God has given us a self-healing body that will heal itself if given the right conditions and certain toxins are taken out of the way that are blocking healing. So this is all stuff that we need to teach our children. We need to master. We must become our own doctors, and we know our bodies better than anyone does. And so to know the things God's given us for free and how our bodies work is essential. So I hope you appreciated that. I've watched that many, many times to really let that sink in. All right, so let's talk about nutrition. So I could talk about this for at least an hour, but I won't. I just want to tell you that especially when you're sick, you want to avoid and eliminate all sugar. And you want to avoid and eliminate wheat. There's a lot of reasons for that. I won't get into that right now. But I'll give you links. And you also want to avoid and eliminate dairy when you're sick, because that is all very mucus producing. Eat real food. Just eat real food is JERF, is what Sean coined. I love that phrase. Another thing is you want to eat a live food that is full of enzymes. And so the way you do that is by either growing it yourself or getting it at a farmer's market. Buying organic seems expensive, but you either pay your farmer or you pay the doctor. And so it's not, or the pharmacist. So it is expensive, but honestly, we know what organic food used to be: real food. I mean, it's just food without the chemicals, without the herbicides, without the pesticides, without the genetically modified organisms. It's real food. So either learn to grow it yourself or learn to forage with me at Wild Blessings, because that's my thing. or buy it from your farmer's market. But it's an investment in you and in your family. And, we're going to pay the piper one point or another. So it's better to invest in your health, because your health is your real wealth. Okay, so that's nutrition. And like I said, we could talk about it forever. And I'm going to give you one presentation. One of my kick-ass ideas is a bone broth, which we'll talk about at the end of the health flaws. Okay, so that is N for health flaws. And then let's talk about E. So E stands for exercise. And this all has to do with our blood, because the life is in the blood. And the blood, our blood, brings oxygen to our cells. It feeds our cells. It removes waste products from our cells. We need live and thin and healthy blood. And we're going to talk about all these things today that we're going to be doing really help the blood to become its best and to be able to perform its functions, because the life is in the blood. All right, so exercise is the best blood mover of anything you can do. And so I know if you're not feeling well, you don't feel like exercising, but a stagnant situation, like just laying in bed, not drinking water because you don't want to have to get up and go pee because you don't feel good, having your electronic devices around you when you're not feeling well, sleeping during the day and being up at night, violating these different health laws that we'll talk about will keep you sicker. So these are, remember I told you, they're preventative and they're also the cure. So exercise is a wonderful prevention. And the best exercise that you could possibly do is high intensity interval training, which is so simple and it doesn't cause heart issues or anything. It's just you just run really fast for 30 seconds and then you walk. And then you run 30 seconds really fast for 30 seconds, or do jump rope or something that gets your heart rate up for just 30 seconds and then you stop. And so sprinters tend to be the healthiest of all athletes because high intensity interval training is so amazingly good for our bodies. We were made to run quickly, like away from a tiger or something. So, okay, another one is jumping on a trampoline or jump rope or any type of jumping, because that releases the lymph. And these little gates that are in our lymph, they're like the waste holders. And when you bounce on the trampoline, they open up and release. And so it's a wonderful way to keep your lymphatic system working really well. But just, especially if you're not feeling well, just go for a walk. And or you can even take, I remember when my mom had pneumonia, I took a tennis ball and put it in a sock and just thumped it against her chest and against her back. I think it was mostly her back, just to keep the gunk from solidifying inside of her lungs. I have to make a disclaimer. I totally forgot, you guys. It's so important. I am not a doctor. And I'm my own personal doctor, but I'm not a doctor. And I'm not trying to prescribe anything. I'm not trying to cure or diagnose or anything. For heaven's sakes, I just want to share with you the things that have worked for me and my family, and that I wish I had known when I was younger, when I was raising my boys, because if something was wrong with them and they had an ear infection, I just took them to the doctor and they had so many courses of antibiotics. It was pitiful. So I've grown, I've changed, and I hope you all are as well. Okay, so E is exercise, and that's moves our blood, and it's all about the blood because the life is in the blood. And then W is water. And especially if you're down under, you want to drink about 8 glasses of water a day, or half your body weight in ounces. And you can live without food for up to 40 days, but you can only live without water for 3 or 4 days. There's a book that I absolutely love. I can't pronounce the doctor's last name. I call him Dr. Batman. But he wrote a book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. Another one is You're Not Sick, You're Just Thirsty. And he goes through the whole book. He goes through each organ and each body system, and he shows what the body looks like when it's hydrated and how it works properly. And when it's dehydrated and sluggish, how each body system and each organ is seriously impaired and not able to do the way it's created to be. So water is probably the most important thing you could drink. And I'm not talking about just liquid. So it's not Diet Cokes and it's not Dr. Pepper or it's not alcohol. I'm talking water. And so you want to get good water. And I talk about this for a whole hour as well, but I just wanted to just bring up the idea that W stands for water and we must have water. So herbal teas would be just about as good as water, but it's just plain water. It is important. Yes.
When you go to the hospital,
Oh, this is important. Yeah.
What's the first thing they do for you?
The first thing they do for you when you're in the hospital, and that's why we always think it's so miraculous when we go to the hospital and we come back feeling better, it's because they put an IV in your veins and they just pump the water and they actually make it as salt water into your system so that voila, all of a sudden you're feeling better. Well, because you're hydrated. So that's something really important I needed to share. I totally forgot. So like I said, Celtic sea salt, and I love Redmond's, and I'll put all this in our class review. But the Redmond sea salt, get the course, and you just put a little crystal on your tongue. And the reason why you do that before you drink water is because it helps your cells to actually absorb the water. I remember when I was caretaking my mom, she didn't want to drink water because it always meant that she'd have to use the bathroom, and it was too painful to do, to always be getting up and down. At the time, I didn't know about having salt with the water. Actually, I did toward the end, and it made such a difference. Because if you don't do that salt before you drink water, you'll just pee it out, or you'll get edema or something. So your cells really need to have those minerals to help the cells to absorb the water that they need to be hydrated. All right, that's W, and then I'll just write on here salt. Okay, and then S stands for sunshine, and so this is the doctor in the sky, and sunshine is so purifying and so powerful. Getting in the sun, especially in the height of the sun during the day for just 20 minutes, builds up your vitamin D, and that is essential. It's a hormone, and it's essential for staying healthy, and it's also essential for staying happy. So, Max, do you like vitamin D?
Well, Max heard you talk about sunshine, and boy, does he love to go outside, and probably your dogs, your animals, your pets want to go outside too. So don't forget about them when it comes to getting sunshine. And by the way,
and exercise.
I know you made some comments about things like antibiotics and what your doctor is saying to you. And nothing that Holly is sharing today should be interpreted to mean stop going to your doctor because you know better. But you need to become more responsible for understanding what it is that's going on in your body and for applying these things that are preventative and that are natural and that are available.
And don't have side effects.
Yes, and there's no question that antibiotics, boy, when he got attacked and he had to heal up, antibiotics were very important for Max. So we're not dismissing antibiotics.
Yeah, there's a place for all of that.
There is.
It's just that when I was a new mom, that was the first thing I did was just go to the doctor. I didn't even know that I could do natural remedies. I didn't have a clue of something that was just common sense for generations that would work well. And if that didn't work, then you can go, of course. And thank you for
well, Max
keeping me out of trouble.
Max heard you say sunshine, and he immediately thought about going outside. And because he does. He and I walk today, all the way up and down the road, and he loves to be outside. That's one of his favorites. Okay, so he just thought.
Well, and then the other thing is our animals need these 8 health laws as well. So we've got nutrition, give them real food, and exercise. E is exercise, and then we talked about water, and of course water the dogs need as well. So the dogs need all of these health laws as well. So let's see, sunshine is extremely important for getting vitamin D. Now, I know you could get vitamin D in liquid form or in pill form, and that's important if you can't get outside. But try to find a way to be outdoors during your lunch hour or something when the sun is the highest in the sky, and just as little clothing as possible. Dr. Brown used to call it naked at noon. So anyway, just getting as much sunshine as possible will really help you, especially if you're down under. There used to be these amazing, I can't remember what they were called, solariums or something, where when people were sick with any kind of serious illness, they would go to these places where they would sit out on porches and just soak in the sun. And I'll put pictures of that in the comments. Interestingly, I have a book on that whole thing, and it's just so fascinating. So it's a whole hour conversation, which we won't do today. I just wanted to remind you, get outside. All right, and then T stands for temperance, and temperance is I'm also going to write down toxins. So this is where you want to not have something that's going to really seize up your immune system. So, for example, sugar really does attack your white blood cells, especially refined sugar. So, like maple sugar and honey, real honey, local honey, that is going to be good for you. But refined sugars will actually reduce your immune system in very specific and practical ways. And so, eliminate sugar. And if there's something that's really good for you, then don't eat too much of it or whatever, like too many oranges or something. Just do things in temperance, just common sense. Also, very important that you eliminate all toxic odors from like a lot of people buy these air fresheners, which have fragrances that are nobody's shares what they're actually made of, but they are filled with all kinds of chemicals. And so get rid of your air fresheners, get outside, get real fresh air. The air quality indoors is 7 times more toxic than outside. So make sure.
What about those toxic? I mean, what about those scented candles?
Yeah, scented candles I'll put a link to that as well. They can be extremely poisonous to your liver. Our poor livers have so much to deal with. So don't use aromas that are not 100% natural. Okay, so that is temperance. And of course, alcohol and all of that is not going to be good for you, especially when you're sick. And then A is the air quality. And this is kind of what I was just kind of briefly mentioning, is that when you're sick, I would recommend having your window open at night so that you can get fresh air from outside. I would recommend taking your bed clothes, your bed sheets and blankets, and air them out on the if you have a line. I remember when I was a little girl, we didn't have a washer for a long time. My grandmother didn't, and so when I would be over at her house, we'd hang up things on the line, the clothesline, and everything would smell so good. So it would be good to get those clotheslines out again and to just purify the things that are in a sick room, and to have fresh air in the sick room, and to diffuse. So next week, I'll be talking about how to be an aromatic warrior, and I'll be giving all kinds of ideas of what you can do with essential oils. But those are expensive, especially because you want to get the real thing. And there's a lot of fake essential oils out there that are really toxic and actually poisonous for you. So we'll do a whole class on that, because that's a totally different topic. But everything we're talking about today is free for pretty much free. Like onions and garlic can get kind of expensive, but all of these things are free. So I wanted to start with what's easy, and also the health laws. Those are all free. They just take your intentionality and your time. Okay, so then the next one after air and fresh air is rest. So you're not feeling well, and so you need to rest. And that does not mean that you rest by sitting in front of the TV. It means you literally just lay down. And especially if your lungs are full of gunk, you want to lay down slanted up. So if you've got a wedge pillow, that's great. Or you could just put several pillows under your head. But it's hard to lie down flat when you've got lungs full of mucus. So you can elevate yourself a little bit like this. The most important part about sleeping when you're not well, or anytime, is that you need to sleep early. So the hours you sleep before midnight do more for your body and your immune system than any hours that you sleep during the day. So don't pride yourself in being a night owl. That you need to do some study on it. You would be amazed at what happens to your circadian rhythms and to your ability to even sleep if you don't sleep at the right hours. And so one of the ways that I reset my circadian rhythms, because I was a night owl, I would go to bed, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the morning, because I was a homeschool mom and I was always trying to prepare for school for the next day. And so I would just be exhausted all the time. And I didn't realize that during those night hours is when our hormones are getting repleted, our immune system is being boosted. And so I was constantly not well. And so learning these things have completely changed my life. So go to sleep early, and the hours that you sleep before midnight are the best. So going to bed, we used to, I know, I was going to tell you how I reset my circadian rhythm by getting up with the sun and then going down with the sun. I don't mean going down with the sun, watching the sunrise and watching the sunset. There's something that happens with the spectrum in your heart and your mind that absolutely shifts your circadian rhythms and kind of resets it. So that could be a good way, if you don't sleep very well, to, just get up and watch the sunrise. And there's a lot of beauty in a sunrise and beauty in a sunset. And the Lord has made the sunrise and the sunset to shout for joy. That's a verse somewhere in Psalms. All right, so that's rest. And then the last one is trusting God. And this is huge because we're so filled with stress, and we're so it seems like there's always something, trying to get our attention, and you can't even get away from it anymore because we carry our phones on us, and we're always being expected to respond right away. And there's just so much stress in today's world, and especially with what's going on in the health scene in our world. So learning to trust God, learning to trust the body that He created to be self-healing, learning to trust His ways and his plants is huge, and it can give us great peace. And remembering whose we are. I love the scripture in Isaiah 26:3, which says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee." So learning to trust God and put your cares and your fears. So we should not be afraid. We should be motivated not by fear, but by facts. And the facts are that God is with us, and that our bodies are incredibly beautifully made to heal if given the right conditions. All right. I also wanted to share, let's see, there was something else I totally forgot about rest. What was it about rest? Oh, there's so much. I mean, I'm like just barely skimming the surface here. Trusting God is the last one. All right. Oh, I know, rest. Make sure that there's no light in your bedroom, and that you have blinds on the windows so that if there's light outside, that isn't bothering your sleep. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, do not look at your, first of all, don't have your cell phone in your room or your laptop or anything like that. Try to get all of that geopathic stress out of your sanctuary, which is your bedroom. And then, so you sleep in the complete dark, no night lights. There's lots of reasons for that, which I won't get into. And also, don't have the geopathic stress in your bed. I know a lot of kids even put their phone under their pillow, and that's extremely damaging. And it's it's not like the jury is even out on that. It's in, and it's not a pretty picture. So make sure that your room is a sanctuary for you, for your rest. All right. And I wanted to read this. This is so cool. This is from a book called Ministry of Healing. And this is what she said: transgression of physical law is transgression of the moral law. For God is as truly the author of the physical law as he is of the moral law. God has written his law with his own finger on every nerve, every muscle, every faculty with which we have been entrusted, and every misuse of any part of our organism is a violation of that law. All should become intelligent as to the human frame and how to keep it in the condition necessary to be our best. The relationship that exists between the physical organism and the spiritual life is one of the most important branches of education. The physical organism should be carefully preserved and developed. So following these laws will preserve your body, and we need to develop our body and make it even better. And so I think that some of these remedies will help, especially if you're not well. And I wanted to tell you that on my website, I have a section under resources called Healing Tips. And this one was on colds and flu. And so I'm only going to share 5 of the things that are in here, but there's stuff for nutritional suggestions, for lifestyle suggestions, herbal suggestions. It's kind of like a smorgasbord, vitamins and minerals, household remedies, body and energy work. So there's a lot on that we're not even going to get touched on, but all of this is on my website, and I'll put the link to that as well. Okay, so that was the 8 health laws. And if you're just learning them for the first time, teach them to your kids, because this is huge. So let's go ahead and start with some of these remedies that we talked about. Jace, how much time do I have?
You've got 16 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to go fast. All right, so let's talk about the onion first. So the onion is an amazing blood purifier. And like I said, it's all about the blood. And it has quercetin in it and selenium. And it's amazing for so many things. So I'll put a link to the things it does for you down below. So right now I'm just cutting up an onion. And this is, I don't remember if onions are part of the Clean 15 or the Dirty Dozen, but you want to get organic onions. And so this is, I already chopped up this onion here, and I'm going to make an onion syrup. So I've got this honey here, and actually the best way to do it is just to put a little bit down and then just put like a tablespoon of the honey in. And then you want to put some more in and another tablespoon of honey. And it takes about an hour for this honey to infuse into the onion and to break down the onion and all the fibers so that it becomes kind of a syrup. And it's really delicious. But this is makes a fantastic cough remedy, especially for a very wet and, you want a productive cough to get that stuff out of there, out of your respiratory system. So I would just keep that up, and then you could put a lid on it, and we'll see what it looks like at the end of class. It doesn't take too long, maybe about an hour for it to get really syrupy. So this would be a great, you could then strain it off into, with a strainer, and then use just a tablespoon of that or as a cough soother. It's a emulsant for your throat, for sore throats. It's amazing how simple this is and how delicious it is. And kids will even eat it. So another thing you can do is take plastic bags and put, so say your kid has a cold, and so you want to put onion in both bags, 2 bags, because they have 2 feet. And our feet have the largest pores of any part of our body, of any part of our skin. And so this is a great place to put these onions. And then you just put their little foot inside of there, and you have the onions on the bottom of their foot. And then you put, I would probably cut this part off so it's a nice flexible plastic. Then put their sock or their little sleeper over the top of that. And then all night long, these onions will be just against their feet. It will not burn their feet at all. And it will draw out the toxins. And it's unbelievable how well this works. So I'll give you a link to where Dr. O'Neill talks about this in more detail. But it is just, I wish I had a little kid to work with this on. But you could also put them inside of your socks and shoes if you've got that kind of issue. But it really, really, really helps with bronchial issues. Okay, so we made the honey and that. Okay, what else did I want to make? Okay, so we did the electrolyte. I'm going to show you how to make a flu bomb. And the flu bomb is, it will make you feel like you drank a bomb. So what you're going to do with the flu bomb is, let me see, I'm going to pour that in here. Okay, so I'm going to put I chopped up some ginger, and ginger is amazing as an anti-inflammatory. It tastes good too. Jace doesn't like ginger, but I also took a clove of garlic and I minced that up. And garlic is also highly excellent as an antibiotic to antibacterial, anti-everything, antimicrobial. So then you want to do the juice of 1 lemon, which I already squeezed, so I'll put that in here. And you want to put some honey in there and some hot water. So let's see if I got everything. Okay, so it's 1 crushed clove of garlic, 1/4 of a teaspoon of finely chopped ginger, the juice of 1 lemon, a teaspoon of honey. Oh, I know. And then 1 drop of thieves. Now you can use a eucalyptus oil but eucalyptus is already in thieves, and I love making thieves tea. So just 1 drop of either eucalyptus, or you could use tea tree. And then you're going to pour hot water over this, just a 1/2 cup, and you're going to down it. So we're not looking for chewing this up or anything like that. Like, this is when you're feeling gross and you just want to kick it to the curb. So you're going to probably do this like every 4 hours. So maybe 4 cups of this a day. And like I said, make sure it's all fresh and organic produce. And then you add the boiling water to that and just gulp it down. So that's the flu balm. And I'm excited about this. I've made them in the past where I called something whoop ass. And what do I have in it? I had onion and garlic, horseradish, turnip, beet, cayenne, ginger, bone set, yarrow, thyme, elderberry syrup, honey, and brandy. So the brandy helps to keep it for a long shelf life. Tastes disgusting, but it has the same effect as the flu balm. But I've never tried this flu balm. I just got the recipe from Dr. Barbara O'Neill, and I'm excited about trying it. But I'm pretty healthy right now. But I will try this tonight just for the heck of it. All right. And then I wanted to show you how to make a bone broth. So our immune system starts in the gut, and our gut has this beneficial bacteria and some pretty bad bacteria too. But we are 10 times more cells of bacteria than we are our human cells. So we need to make sure that we are nourishing and feeding those, the microbiome is what it's called. And so one of the best things you can do for that is to make bone broths. And so basically a bone broth it sounds like a lot of work, but it's really not. You've made a chicken, you get an organic chicken, you've eaten it, you take the bones, throw it into your pot. And what do I have in here? I've got some carrots. I have some onion skins, because onion skins are really powerful for, they have even more quercetin in it than a regular onion. So you throw in the onion skins. And so when I have leftover tips of broccoli, or not broccoli, yeah, you can use broccoli or any vegetable, don't throw it out. Either put it on your compost so you can make good soil, because good soil creates good plants, or throw it into the freezer. And then when you're making bone broth, you can put those pieces into your bone broth. So I've got carrots, and I have celery in here, and I have onions in here. And just really quick for my Wild Blessings gang, I want to show you how to make it wild. So I'm going to add to it some things that were in my freezer. And let's see. Here is evening primrose, and evening primrose right now is just totally dried out and not edible. But back when it was just turning into really yummy seed pods, I froze them. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of those in here too. And they have amazing constituents that I won't take the time to describe, but it's so good for you. And so then I'm going to also throw in some Japanese knotweed, and Japanese knotweed is high in resveratrol. And so this was frozen from last probably May, when I collected tons of this stuff, and we were doing all kinds of recipes with Japanese knotweed. And so that's going to go in here. And then I'm going to add some burdock root. And the burdock is like a huge blood cleanser, an amazing liver detoxifier. So I'm going to throw in some burdock root, and I have some lamb's quarter, but I'm not going to put that in because this is very tender. These are little leaves. And so I'm going to brew this for a good 24 hours on a simmer. And then at the very end, I'll put in the lamb's quarter. And then I also have some dandelion spring roots from last spring. And so I'm going to throw some of those in. And basically, I'm adding vitamins and minerals, you guys. And so this is what our cells crave, and this is what our cells need. And all of the prebiotics that are on these plants all go in here to help make our gut happy.
Well, explain then, why would you make the bone broth, and when do you feel like you need to drink or put that bone broth into something that you're thinking?
Yeah.
Explain that part.
Okay, so like especially when you're not well, this is serious nutrition, and it doesn't take a lot to digest. It's already been cooked down for a very long time, and I'm adding to it a chicken foot. So the chicken feet add the collagen and the gelatin, and what else do they add? Some other wonderful ingredients. So this is just super nutrition. And then you can use this as a base for your soups, or you can just sip bone broth. You can buy it at the stores. It's quite expensive. But what I love about it is it's kind of like, I did a whole blog on it, so I'll give you a link to that as well. It's kind of like the story of stone soup, where this peasant was going through a town and he was hungry, and he asked everyone if they would give him food, and they said no. So he says, well, I can make for you a magic stone soup and you're going to love it. And they were interested. So he took a stone and he put it into a pot and he got it boiling with water. And then he said, well, I can't wait for you to try this. I'll share it with all of you. And then he said it would taste better with a little bit of carrots. And so somebody brought him some carrots. And he goes, I think it'd be even better with some onions. And he throws in some onions that somebody brought him. And by the time everyone had brought something and thrown it into the stew, it was really quite nutritious and delicious. And he had tricked them into giving and sharing with him after all. So this is just a great way to keep your leftovers or your scraps without throwing them away, and then using that for the nourishment of your body. So I'm going to tell you another tip. So after this is cooked, then I'm going to strain it off through a strainer into a container and keep it until I want to make it into a soup. When you use a soup, especially when you're not well, it's a good idea to use really aromatic spices. So here I've got some cloves, and I have some coriander, and I have some star anise, and I have some allspice. And so you can add some of those things in there, kind of like or Thai seasonings. And some of these spicier things can really get your blood moving. And like we said, it's all about the blood, because the life is in the blood. And you want the circulation, you want to get away from a stagnant environment and into a really living, moving, and healthy environment. So that's the bone broth. And then the last thing I want to show you how to make is a wild oxymel. And this is really fun. I had so much fun making this. So what I did is, believe it or not, the wild garlic is out now. Some people call it wild onion, and look at those little bulbs. So I just collected this about a half an hour before class. I'm going to chop them up small and put them in. Oh, that's my flu balm. Oh, here, I know, I'll use this. Okay. Let me rinse that out. Okay, so I'm just using some scissors. I'm going to just chop up these little scallions. These are wild and free. And boy, I love this plant. It is just so delicious and so good. And I love the way it comes out in the winter. And it's kind of like, it can't wait for spring. So it comes out all winter, really. So it's kind of fun. So you get the bulbs in there, and you might want to chop those up too, just to break up the cell walls. But I'm going to just throw them in just because I'm running out of time. And then I have pine needles. And we talked with Jana Jones last week about how pine needles are so high in vitamin C, and they're super good against Tamiflu. So I'm going to put the pine needles that I chopped up small inside of there. I'm going to put the berries in there like that. I've got some ginger that is minced up pretty small. And remember the sumac bulbs? I've got the sumac bulbs already deburied, and I'm going to throw those in for also some vitamin C. And then here we have garlic. So the garlic goes in as well. And then you're going to fill the rest of the way up with honey. And I probably don't have time to demonstrate all this, but you get the honey in, maybe look how thick that honey is. That's good honey. It needs to be thick if it's good. And then you're going to add the vinegar. So this is the vinegar I just decanted. And when you're dealing with vinegar, you never want to use metal for the lids because it will erode the metal. And so I've got plastic lids like this one here. And you want to mix this all really well. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, it's just gorgeous. You're going to mix this up really well. So this takes a couple of weeks to steep and so forth. So it's not the kind of thing you can do quickly like the honey syrup that I showed you earlier, but it's a really wonderful thing to be intentional about and to put together with your kids. Look at those beautiful barberries. So this is like major awesomeness. Okay, and then I'll just let that sit for a couple of weeks. All right, so let's see, what am I doing next? I wanted to share with you so much more, but I've run out of time. I want to talk about elderberry and how it makes our cells slippery and how the germs can't hold on. God has provided so much in creation for our well-being. And so let food be your medicine and medicine be your food, and let your lifestyle. It's a lot harder to change lifestyle than it is to take a pill. But guys, no pill is going to change decades of poor eating and of being dehydrated. No pill or no essential oil or no herb is going to change that either. It takes kind of like a paradigm shift, kind of like I'm going this direction. I realize, wow, I'm heading off a cliff. And then you just go back, and it's amazing how our bodies can rebuild and rejuvenate, and how God has made us fearfully and wonderfully made. So they will heal if given the right conditions, no matter how much we've abused them. So don't lose hope if you've been abusive. So I pray that you would prosper and be in good health. Thank you for joining me.